Coming up on the next edition of Power and Politics, the Iowa caucuses are in the history books as former President Donald Trump makes quick work of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Next up, New Hampshire. And we look into a move in the state legislature to roll back child labor laws. Hello and welcome to another edition of Power and Politics. I'm your host, Frank Cipolla. Power and Politics is a weekly, unbiased look at the top stories affecting the state of Florida, with a special emphasis on the thinking behind the decisions that affect our lives. To get into that aspect of it, I am joined today, as I am every week, by my co-host, Emmy Award-winning political psychologist, Dr. Bart Rossi. Doctor, welcome.
Great to be here, Frank.
All right. As you know, the race for the White House is off and running with a big Iowa caucus win for former President Trump. Trump won 98 of the 99 Iowa counties. Trailing far behind was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. In second place, trailed closely by former South Carolina Governor and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. This upcoming week, it's New Hampshire's turn to hold its presidential primary. So, Dr. Rossi, that is the first question. Does Trump take this momentum into New Hampshire?
Well, Frank, he lost the one county by one vote out of 99 counties. So that's amazing, actually. It's the party of Trump right now. And the reason is that he has the rock-solid conservative body of the Republican Party in his corner. And going forward, it seems like there's no one that's really going to be able to challenge him. He doesn't have everybody in the Republican Party. Remember, there's a lot of never-Trumpers, but they're to the sideline now.
All right, I'm going to talk about that in my commentary, but I found it interesting that immigration, and not pocketbook issues, but immigration was the main concern of Iowa caucus goers. Why do you think immigration was the issue and not the nuts and bolts of the economy?
As a psychologist, I would answer that by saying emotion. People are emotional when it comes to immigrants and people coming into this country. They feel like they're being invaded. They feel like they're angry about what's going on at the border. They're hot about it. And it's an issue that resonates with a lot of conservatives. They just don't feel comfortable about these people coming into the country.
But immigrants and migrants work in the fields in Iowa. They work in the factories in Iowa. They're part of the Iowa economy. So it would seem to think that, maybe they would welcome migrants legally to work in their factories, to work on the farms and so on.
Well, you're being logical.
Okay.
Okay. That might
well, you're the psychologist. I'm asking you why that is.
Well, being logical and talking about politics, sometimes there's a conflict there, and as we know. And in this case, I think the other side of that is the emotion and the anger about these people coming into the country. Who are they? Why are they here? They're invading our country. They're not really a part of us. They're not who we are. That kind of thing.
Okay, let's talk about Ron DeSantis, because he spent a lot of money, a lot of time in Iowa, visited all 99 counties, and essentially trailed poorly behind Donald Trump. What happens now? Nikki Haley says she won't debate. She won't debate unless Trump is on the stage. She won't debate DeSantis anymore. She just wants to debate Donald Trump or President Biden. Where does Ron DeSantis sort of fit into this mix? Does he have one more primary in him, two more? At what point does it become untenable?
Well, from the psychology end of this,
and you're a psychologist.
I like what you said. What happens next?
Right.
Well, what happens is, I think, in his mind, he's thinking of hanging on. He's thinking of hanging on because the Supreme Court may decide that Donald Trump cannot be the candidate. If that happens, he's probably realizing that he may jump to number one because he's been very much, courting the Trump base. So if Trump gets knocked out, the governor, DeSantis, is thinking he may go up.
Okay, Nikki Haley came in a respectable third. She was right behind Ron DeSantis. Where does she go from here?
Well, she looks good in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a completely different ballgame. Mm-hmm. There's not as many evangelicals. There are more independents and Democrats. There's a lot of different people voting. So she may do well there, and she could win. But then she has to go to South Carolina, her home state, and she may not win there. She could. But there's a lot of ifs and maybes, and the bottom line is Donald Trump looks like he could prevail in both states.
All right, we have about 30 seconds before your rant. The juxtaposition of Donald Trump winning, and the next day he's in court in New York City.
Right.
as a psychologist, I'm watching all of this, or you're watching all of this. What do you think people are thinking?
I think they're thinking that Donald Trump is getting a lot of PR. He's getting a lot of press, and he's using these legal issues to help him and boost him, actually, as he goes forward. And he's doing a pretty good job of that, actually, if you think about it.
Okay, it's that time now for our regular segment we call a commentary from Dr. Bart Rossi called the Rossi Rant. Doctor.
And Frank, this one today is really coming from our viewer, Bill, who wrote in and said to me, he said, logic is not in style. He was watching us, he was listening, and he said, based on what we were saying, that he doesn't feel that any logic is really part of the political scene. What's happening doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you think about it, take a look at Florida. We have an abortion law that most Republicans don't want. They don't like it. They really would have preferred it stay at 15 weeks, but the governor made it a 6-week ban. Now we have a situation where we're talking about banning books, so there's more government intrusion. Most people don't like that. So logically, why are we having laws and why are we having things happen that make no sense to most of the people in Florida or across the country? Even at the Democratic side, there's a lot of commentary about the messaging not being good enough. Poor. Well, why don't they change? Why don't they come up with some better ideas on taxes and finance? Doesn't seem like that's happening. So my thinking is Bill's right. Bill is correct. Logic is not prevailing. Emotion, but no logic in the political scene right now.
And we thank Bill for that.
We do.
So logic is no longer in style.
It's not in style. I think it might come back, but now it's a problem.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Coming up, we'll talk about a move in the state legislature to weaken child labor laws and something you brought up a moment ago, Doctor, the banning of books in the state when power and politics continues.
Discover excellence in video production with ITZ Media Group, the leading choice in Florida for corporate, commercial, documentary, and reality TV show marketing. We do more than make videos. We deliver cinematic experiences with reliable results. If you need a turnkey solution that elevates your brand, contact ITZ Media Group today at 239-573-1111 or visit us online at itzmediagroup.com.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Welcome back to Power and Politics. I'm Frank Cipolla, joined by political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi. A controversial bill has been proposed in the Florida State Legislature that would roll back Florida's child labor laws, allowing teens as young as 16 to work more than 30 hours a week, even during the school year. The Florida Education Association says it's against the move. Doctor, your thoughts? I did some reading on this week. Child labor laws have been on the books since 1916,
Right.
initiated by
Right.
President Wilson in Congress at that time. And here we are 100 some odd years later, and we're talking about scaling back child labor law. What is the psychology behind that?
Frank, my take on this may surprise you, but I think the psychology here is that it's a political stunt. I really do. What's happening is that these politicians who are for this are trying to say that they're for work. People need to work harder. They need to be part of the working community, even if they're young. And they're focused on this work ethic, which resonates with some voters. I think it's more of a political stunt because logically, again, logic, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, what they're saying is, that in some cases you can drive a car at 16, so you're really not a child. So my question to you is, how can you possibly do schoolwork and work as many as 30 hours after school and still get a good education that might lead to a college education?
Yeah, I mean, emotionally and psychologically, this work, it's in conflict in a lot of ways with actually going to school and being a student. Now, by the way, some work may be very good for kids in high school, but it seems like the push here is, to me, it's more of a political stunt than anything else.
I think it's tied in some way, shape, or form to immigration. There are stricter immigration laws, especially in Florida, which was passed last year, that prevents migrants from working on construction sites and elsewhere in factories and retail and so on. So I think with fewer migrants, because they have fled to other states that are more migrant-friendly, you need employees. You need young men and women to work at Burger King and McDonald's and in retail and so on and so forth. What is the immigration connection?
Well, you may have a good connection there, but the Educational Association is basically right, saying that then you're using the kids. In a way, you're using the kids to try to help a labor issue. It doesn't compute except politically.
All right. Now, next topic for the state, at least, is book bans. There was a move this week to ban some books in one particular Florida county, and they banned the dictionary. Now, I always laugh when I hear this because we're not living in the 1950s. Everybody goes to a library, or people go to a library, and they do the Dewey Decimal System and they pull the cards out. We have the internet now. Right. You really don't need a book. If you want a book, you can order any book at any time, regardless of what your age might be. I think the last statistic I saw, 92% of kids at the age of 13 have a smartphone.
Right.
So they can read or do anything they want. Why in the world would you ban books to begin with, and number two, dictionaries?
Well, Frank, on this subject, I could get very hot. I could really get hot as a psychologist because I'm thinking, well, suppose you're in a community that's more progressive, more liberal, and the board, let's say the school board, decides to ban conservative books. Well, I think that's outrageous. That's terrible. Suppose you're in a community that's more conservative. Well, you have a conservative board. Now they say, well, we're going to ban the so-called liberal books, whatever they might be. I think that's ridiculous. How about parents making a decision? I mean, it's getting to the point where, again, no logic, no sense, and really against democracy, if you think about it.
Let's discuss the parents for a moment. One parent objects to a book, Catcher in the Rye, as an example, okay? That parent could say to their children, I don't want you reading Catcher in the Rye. And if I find it in your room, we're going to bring it back to the library. If I find it on your phone, I'm going to make sure it's deleted, and so on and so forth. Why does that one parent get the opportunity to dictate to the rest of the parents who may or may not have a problem with their children reading Catcher in the Rye?
Exactly correct. Just what I said. I mean,
that's logical again.
Well, we're all going to have different points of view.
Exactly.
Everybody might be, leaning one way or the other. Maybe very conservative, very progressive. Okay. So once we start getting into banning things, then there's no sense at all. There's just chaos. Because what books? Well, depending on how somebody thinks or feels, it doesn't really compute in any way. I could get very hot as a psychologist because we're getting into somebody's personality and their frame of reference and really wiping out everybody else.
You know, the good governor from the great state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, talks about Florida being the freedom state. I have an issue when I can't read the book I would like to read, or I can't have my children read a book that I think is okay for them. That's not freedom to me.
No, to me, it's a sign of being against freedom. That's why this is so controversial. And I think it's going to be a hot issue going forward.
And where do we go from here? We have about 20 seconds or so. It's a slippery slope.
I think there's going to be a lot more controversy before this is over. And I think it's going to be a hot issue going forward here in Florida and across the country.
All right, thank you, Doctor. We are going to take a break. When we come back, the always popular sunshine or showers segment, when we see who enjoyed a day at the beach this week and who got caught in the rain, when Power and Politics continues.
Experience an unforgettable Everglades adventure with Captain Jack's Total Everglades Combo Package. Begin with a thrilling airboat ride through twisting mangrove tunnels in Everglades City. Next, continue your airboat experience at Wooten's private 259-acre reserve. Get your adrenaline pumping as you glide through wide-open glades. Take a swamp buggy tour through grasslands, a cypress forest, and manatee pond. Learn about Everglades folklore and history as you try to spot wild alligators, birds, and other animals. Watch a live alligator show with a professional handler and hold your own baby alligator. See alligators, tigers, lions, otters, and other rescued animals in our sanctuary. Enjoy refreshments in our gift shop and take a piece of the Everglades home with you. Captain Jack's is fun for people of all ages and is open 365 days a year.
Welcome back to Power and Politics. As you know, the weather can change in an instant in Florida, so every week we span the great state to find out who enjoyed some sunshine and who needed an umbrella. It's time for our popular segment, Sunshine or Showers. So, Dr. Rossi, who's in the sunshine this week?
Frank, I have Kathleen Passidomo, the Senate president, okay? Now, she's very strong on a bill that I think is extremely positive for Florida. It's a bipartisan bill. Republicans and Democrats really strong on this as well, but she's leading the parade here, if you will. And it's a health care bill that will enable more doctors to come into the state, more nurses to come in, medical professionals, and also more access for people in Florida to get services. It's a great bill, and I hope it's a step in the right direction toward Medicaid expansion.
You know, we don't usually talk about who's in the sunshine, who's in the showers off air or before the show. Mine actually has a healthcare connection.
It does. So who do you have in the sun? Who do you have?
You're going to ask me who I have in the sunshine.
In the sunshine, yeah.
I have Obamacare in the sunshine, specifically the residents of the great state of Florida. 800,000 of them have signed up for Obamacare. In just the last week, 15% of the Florida population now has Obamacare as their medical coverage. Look, we can argue the points of what exactly it is, how it was set up, why people are against it. It's socialism, they say in some cases, and so on. But I don't know anybody in the world or anybody in the state who would say at the moment it's better people don't have health care.
Correct.
Whatever it is, whether it's Medicaid, which we don't have in Florida, or the expansion of it, Medicare, whether it's a private insurance policy you get through your employer, it's always good to have health insurance. It's dangerous not to have it. It could drive you into bankruptcy. So I'm going to put all the great people who have Obamacare in Florida in the sunshine this week because I think it's better that people are covered with medical care instead of not being covered.
And I agree wholeheartedly, Frank. And I also agree because I think that when it comes to these services, you know, it's needed. It's definitely needed.
Now, you know, listen, we have a lot of sunshine. The weather's been kind of iffy over the last couple of weeks, cloudy. So, you know, with each sunshiny day, we have showers. Who is in the showers this week, Dr. Ross?
Frank, I have the NFL, the National Football League, believe it or not, because I was tuning in to watch the Kansas City game. I was kind of interested in how cold it was, and I'm obviously a Dolphin fan as well. And I find out that I can't really watch it on regular TV. It has to be on Peacock. And many of the commentators across the country are really angry.
And you have to pay for it now.
Yeah. To me, this smacks of something very, very greedy on behalf of the NFL, where they're trying to grab some money, somehow do something, but it's not good for the fan base.
Are you calling the NFL greedy?
It seems.
Shame on you.
It seems that. It seems that
Shame
way
on you.
because it doesn't look good. It doesn't. The optics are bad here.
Okay, so you had your showers.
Yeah. Where are you going with the shower?
Okay, you're asking the question. I'll give you the
All right.
answer right now. I am putting the Associated Press in the showers, and I'll tell you why. The Associated Press this past week called the race in Iowa a half hour before the voting even began. Now, I don't have a problem with exit polls. I don't have a problem with making predictions when the polls close or the voting has stopped. And in Iowa, of course, there are no exit polls, there are only entrance polls. So they take a bunch of entrance polls and they find out that Donald Trump is going to win. So they announce it half an hour before. People are sort of still deciding, you know, they're caucusing. Yeah. Associated Press, I find that very unethical. They are in the showers this week.
Bad optics again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you, Doctor. Okay, it's time to take a break. When we return, a commentary by yours truly titled Let's Be Frank, when Power and Politics continues.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Discover excellence in video production with ITZ Media Group, the leading choice in Florida for corporate, commercial, documentary, and reality TV show marketing. We do more than make videos. We deliver cinematic experiences with reliable results. If you need a turnkey solution that elevates your brand, contact ITZ Media Group today at 239-573-1111 or visit us online at itzmediagroup.com.
Welcome back. When it comes to picking presidents, you must admit the way we do it in the United States is bizarre. Every 4 years, we wait for voters in one state to pick the candidate we focus on for the rest of the election cycle. One state out of 50. Iowa, I'm sure, is beautiful, but is it truly representative of who we are as a nation? First of all, it's overwhelmingly white. Second, it's overwhelmingly rural. Not exactly what you would find in Miami, Orlando, or Jacksonville. In fact, the entire state of Iowa has about the same number of people as the city of Tampa. So why do we put so much weight into what one state decides? And why have we been giving Iowa first billing for the past 50 years? It clearly seems out of touch. Complicating the process is the fact we go from Iowa to New Hampshire, another state as different from Florida as you can get. There has to be a better way. There have been some rumblings from both parties about kicking things off with a Super Tuesday-like primary that includes several states all at once, a mix of rural and urban states, and voters from varying backgrounds. If we did it that way, wouldn't it stand to reason that we get a presidential candidate who speaks for all of us, as opposed to someone talking to one state's voters who, for the most part, go ignore the rest of the way? This reporter has a suggestion. Why not replace Iowa with Georgia or North Carolina, two states that more accurately reflect who we are? Wouldn't that raise the probability that we would get a president who not only reflects the makeup of our nation, but has to address a slew of issues and not just the latest farm bill working its way through Congress? As far as the general election, the Electoral College has been getting trashed for the last 25 years, and some would say for good reason. The last two Republicans to hold the presidency, George W. Bush and Donald Trump, lost the popular vote in two separate elections, but won the Electoral College vote. Bush in 2000, Trump in 2016. This is no reflection on either one of these men or their party affiliation, but it's the kind of stuff that makes Americans sour on elections in general. Everyone needs to be heard, all of us from every ethnicity and walk of life, in order to pick a leader who can understand where we are and where we are headed as a nation. We'll be right back.
Need a marketing agency to help you take care of business? Visit Quinzel.com. Our clients get more customers.
Getting the word out about your business takes marketing. And while any business person can place an ad online or elsewhere, being interviewed by your local TV or radio reporter or anchor instantly brands you the expert. Contacts Media was founded by an on-air news veteran of 40 years who worked in the nation's #1 media market. He and his team have the knowledge and contacts to get you booked locally and in other major markets. For more information, visit Contacts Media today at contactsmedia.com.
That's it for this week's edition of Power and Politics. On behalf of my co-host, political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi, and the fine folks working behind the scenes, thanks for joining us. As always, we'd like to know what you think. Visit us at powerandpolitics.tv or email us at info@powerandpolitics.tv. See you next time.